Hello everyone, we were learning the concepts of flume. We will see some more concepts of flume in this session. The first topic in today's session would be fan out. This is a feature of flume which talks about delivering events from one source to multiple channels so that they are reaching at the same instance of time multiple sinks. So previous architectures which we have discussed in the previous sessions, they were talking about the single channel is trying to transfer information to one sink at a time. Now fan out tries to increase the number of channels at the same time. Multiple sinks can receive the information from multiple channels. So fan out is the term used for delivering events from one source to multiple sinks using multiple channels. For example, we want to talk about I have multiple sinks and this is the scenario. For example, the configuration in the following example delivers all the events to two sinks. So we want to talk about multiple sinks. One sink is HDFS sink, the other one is a logger sink. So sink 1A and sink 1B, and I have two channels corresponding to each sink, channel 1A, channel 1B. How do we configure this fan out? So here in this scenario I am just showing two channels, two sinks. There could be multiple channels in practicality wherein you should be listing out all the channels and all the sinks who are receiving from the respective channels. So if you go through this one, agent 1 dot sources is equal to source 1. See, whenever you are writing the flume script, it won't be like a regular program. It will be always like setting the configuration parameters. So as part of your lab exercise also, you have write down the flume script for spooling a directory. So you are supposed to write all these parameters. That would be your lab answer, lab practical for flume, right? So how do I write these ones? Agent 1 dot sources. How many sources are we talking about in this example? Single source. So source 1. If there are multiple sources, you are supposed to write separated by space. Similarly, how many sinks are we talking about in this example? Two sinks, 1A, 1B. How many channels? List out all the channels that are available. The moment you see multiple sinks and multiple channels without seeing rest of the theoretical concept, suppose somebody gives you the script and asks what exactly is this, how many sinks and how many channels are there. The moment you see multiple sinks and multiple channels, you can say they have applied the concept of fan out. Fan out, what is the degree of fan out? You can specify how many number of channels are there, how many number of sinks are there, that you are supposed to tell. Similarly, agent 1 dot sources dot source 1 dot channels. So source 1 is connected to how many channels? Both the channels, because you are talking about a scenario wherein single source, two channels, two sinks. So source 1 is connected to both the channels, and similarly sink is 1A is connected to which channel, sink 1B is connected to which channel. We are supposed to specify all these parameters. So this is one scenario of fan out wherein you are trying to talk about from one source the information or the events are reaching to multiple sinks using multiple channels. Then the fan out can be explained using this diagram. If you see, we are trying to generate the events via this file system, and this file system, whatever things are happening via the file system, somebody is storing a new file, somebody is reading a file, somebody is trying to make modifications to the file, whatever may be the events, we are trying to inform these events via the channels to, one is the HDFS system, the other one is a logger, right? Whatever files that have been uploaded, whatever files that have been downloaded, all such file content will be in HDFS, and the logger sync will try to record all the log events. This is the purpose for our example. So we are trying to work with two channels. One is working as a file channel, one is working as a memory channel. Why do we call it as a memory channel? It has to remember the log events. Then once you are trying to finish, HDFS will just inform to Flume directory about the files that have been accessed, whereas logger will try to show on the console. If you want, you can see through the dashboard or through the administrator console what all the events that have been done by which user, right? So the key of fanning out is that the source is configured to deliver to multiple channels via this property to a space separated list of channel names. So what is the key thing? We are trying to set this property to tell multiple channels are there for which the source is working, and the channel list is given as a space separated list. This time the channel feeding the logger sync is a memory channel, since we are trying to log the events for future debugging purpose, or I just want to know who has the access on the particular day. I just wanted to see what are all the events that have happened. Also, each channel is configured to one sync. The file channel is talking about HDFS, and the whatever log events they are going to logger sync. This is just an example scenario. In practicality, there could be multiple channels, multiple syncs. And this is very important, delivery guarantees. We are trying to transfer whatever events that have happened to a sync via a channel from a source. So from the source the events are forwarded to a channel. The channel is trying to put them onto the sync. So obviously all these components are connected via a network. Again, the concept of failing one of the devices, one of these components, they are not physical devices. So one of the components might fail, or the networking components might fail. How are they ensuring the deliverables of the particular events? So just go through this. Flume uses a separate transaction to deliver each batch of events from the spooling directory source to the channel. So from the source the events list is going on to the channel. So for that one transaction will be counted. So from the source to the channel is one transaction. In this example, one transaction will be used, whatever example we have seen in fan out, one transaction will be used to deliver to the channel feeding the HDFS sync, and then the other transaction will be used to deliver the same batch of events to the channel for logger sync. Because they are trying to put two channels, one for HDFS sync, the other one is for the logger sync. From the source the events list is going into two channels, one for each channel. From a source to how many channels it is going. In our example it is two channels, so we count it as two transactions. Source to first channel, source to second channel. We are counting them as two transactions. If either of these transactions is failing, why it will fail? One such example they have given is the channel has become full. Ultimately the channel is a component with limited capacity, limited memory capacity. So in such case what happens if the channel is full? We know the concepts of being memory full when we are trying to transfer, when you are trying to pump in information. So in such cases if the channel is full, the transaction fails. Fails in the sense the source cannot pump in more events into the channel. Then the event will not be removed from the source and it will be retried after some amount of time. The event will be kept at source, which is to be transmitted to the channel. We set the selector dot optional property on the source, passing it a space separated list of channels. See through the property, agent 1 dot sources dot source 1 dot selector dot optional is equal to channel 1B. What is the meaning of this one? How many channels am I trying to work? I am working with two channels in this particular example. Say for example one is mandatory, wherein I want to store my information into HDFS sync, and whether I record the log events or not, suppose I am taking it as an optional one. In such case, whether you deliver it to the second channel or not, it is okay with me because you are setting it as optional. By default, all the channels will be taken as mandatory, but if you want to set one of the channels as optional or some of the channels as optional, you have to specify the list of all the channels which can be optional via space separated. It's a simple example. Say for example, I am doing in a day some 10 activities in college. So whom should I report all my activities, right? So should I inform it to my superiors? Obviously mandatory. Should I inform it to my colleagues? Sometimes may be mandatory, sometimes may be optional. So in cases where it is optional, you can mention via this property, right? So this is how we try to select whether always the channel should receive the event information or some channels can be optional, can be set with this property. Replicating and multiplexing selectors. This is one more concept. How are we trying to work with this? In normal fan out flow, events are replicated to all the channels. As I told, by default all the channels will receive, that is mandatory. But sometimes more selective behavior might be desirable, so that some events are sent to one channel and others are sent to another. What is this mean? What is the meaning of this one? Say for example, right now I am recording, I am recording the 4th unit. Say for example, this is the 7th topic, so I am trying to record this one. Now to students, I need not tell on which day I have recorded or how much time I have spent in preparing the PPT, or I need not also tell what time I was recording, if not the date, what time I was recording in the campus. So all these information is not necessary for the students. So for them, I will give the content. But whereas for my superiors or to whomever I am reporting, I should give the log, that whatever I have done so far, I should submit the log, right? So we are trying to decide which information should be going to which channel. We are not saying it optional, right? We are trying to decide out of the events that have been generated, we are deciding which should go to which channel. This is called as selection. Now, how is it going to happen? We use the multiplexing concept. Whenever this particular source is generating 10 events in a day, 2 should go here, 3 should go here, 4 should go here. Likewise, you are specifying the channel selection. We do this via the concept of multiplexing. Then, distribution agent tiers. All the time we have seen in the previous example, one agent is trying to pass it on to the channel, and from channel it is going to the sink. When the data size increases, when the levels of tiers are increasing between source and sink, what shall we do? Here what are we trying to do is, suppose in my example I have multiple sources which are trying to generate the information. Say for example, today in lab 1 location, I have done 10 lab exams. Say for example, in a day 10 lab exams cannot happen. Let us consider 3 exams have happened. Then tomorrow 2 more exams. Day after tomorrow 3 more exams. Now at the end of 3rd day, I want to send the status information. Do I do it day wise? Maybe not needed. I will say together in 3 days I have done these many sets of examinations, right? So you are trying to collect the information belonging to one particular node, one particular location, and pass it on to a single reporting agent. So in the similar way, what are we trying to do is, if suppose all these things are corresponding to one particular node in a Hadoop network, what we shall do is, we will try to take out all the events into a single agent, and this agent will try to segregate them. These things are coming from so and so node on so and so day, and these events are coming from that particular node in another day, and you are trying to segregate them based on whatever condition you have, and you are trying to put them on to the second level of agents. We call them as tier 2 agents. Then tier 2 agents might segregate and pass it on to tier 3 and so on. Finally, they reach the sink. So, whenever you are trying to work with multiple levels of agents, we call them as tiers of agents or agent tiers. And Flume very well works with agent tiers. Then how do I specify this tier levels, all these things? Just go through this script once. First tier agent, this is the script. If you go through this one, we are trying to work with source 1, sink 1, channel 1, and from source 1, the channels that are attached to source 1 are channel 1. Sink is also attached to channel 1. What type of directory are we working with? What is the path of the directory which is recording the events? So, we are trying to inform all the parameters. Similarly, the same thing should be written for second tier agents. I have third tier agents, I should write similar kind of parameters for second tier agents also. So, this is how you try to write for all the sets of agents. So, in my example, from source 1, channel 1 is taking, and that channel 1 is passing it on to agent 2. Agent 2 is trying to pass it via the file channel onto the HDFS sink. So, if you just see the diagram once again, tier 1 agent from the source is passing on to tier 2 agent, from there it is reaching HDFS. So, the same thing we can try to mention which file channel, what type of files are we using. Are we using Parquet files, are we using Avro files, or am I using a text file, what type of file are we using. All such information should be described here.